Hi, everybody. Great to be with you again. As I've said so many times before, I'm just really thrilled that you're continuing to pursue this biblical value of connecting to other people. We just can't live without it. We need people around us to encourage us and to help us, especially in our relationships within our own family. And even after this last weekend where we spoke about the biblical couple of Hosea and Gomer and the passage about help, I'm in a really, really bad relationship. If there's anything that I want to emphasize within your small group to talk a bit about, it's this whole idea of how God's love continually gives us hope. That we don't lose hope. We don't lose hope in Him, and we don't lose hope in each other. And if that happens, that's when relationships really go haywire. When people just harden up their hearts and they just don't care anymore. I had a very, very unique experience back with Pastor Harry Larson, and he and I were traveling back to the Soviet Union in the mid-1990s, right after the Soviet Republic fell apart, and we were going in to see and visit ministries in some of the areas up there. And in Red Square, of all places, I was propositioned by a prostitute. And she didn't speak much English at all, but I was just so taken aback by her, and especially by her appearance. She was a very, very hardened woman who looked like she had been beaten, might have been addicted to some kind of a drug that I just didn't even know what to say, and she immediately left. Obviously, I would have said no and was not interested, but I was just overwhelmed by it all. And it's a picture in my mind of maybe what Gomer looked like after her sinfulness and her betrayal of her husband and her turning her back on the Lord. I'll never forget it. People that try to live without hope, boy, they end up in some very, very dark places. Well, we don't want to end up in those dark places. And so I want to give you some encouragement, again, from the scriptures. Throughout this book of Hosea, we're told time and again that God's love gives us hope. And I want to develop a little bit more the idea of these names that were given to these children in chapter 1. If you remember back, Hosea and Gomer, many think they had 3 children. Some think that these children were born from adulterous relationships and that Hosea was not the father. However we understand it, they ended up with 3 kids. The name of the first, as you remember, was Jezreel. In chapter 1 and verse 5, Jezreel was a valley in northern Israel. The word literally means God scatters. Has another meaning, God sows, that we'll see in just a minute. But the idea was that God was going to scatter the northern kingdom of Israel. The second child, a girl, is named Lo Ruhamah, which literally means unpitied or unloved. The people of northern Israel had turned their backs on the Lord, and He was turning His back on them. The third child, named Lo Ami, literally not my people. And it was just a horrible situation and circumstance in this ancient day. Yet continually, as God called the Hebrew people to return to Him, the word return is used some 23 times in this letter of Hosea. If they would just turn back, God would forgive. He loved him. There was always hope in the love of God. And we see it again in chapter 1 and verse 10, because right after we get the very negative names, God says He's going to do something good for Israel. Verse 10, yet the number of the sons of Israel will be like the sand of the sea, which cannot be measured or numbered. And it will come about that in the place where it is said to them, you are not my people, it will be said to them, you are the sons of the living God. So there's this hope. Change was going to come. God's love would win. There was hope for the Hebrew people. And one day they would recognize it all. Verse 11, and the sons of Judah and the sons of Israel will be gathered together, and they will appoint for themselves one leader, and they will go up from the land, and great will be the day of Jezreel. So this valley that was going to be a symbolic name of pain and anguish, where judgment was going to come, was going to be a place of great joy for the people. When one leader comes and the Hebrew people gather around him. This is a statement about the Messiah and the coming millennial kingdom, when the Hebrew people will be restored and Jesus will rule the earth from Jerusalem. Oh, what a great day. There's always hope. God's love is going to win. And then chapter 2 and verse 1 continues this hopeful statement. Say to your brothers, Ami, and to your sisters, Ruhamah. So the names of the children, negative in chapter 1, now become positive. The negative names, you're not my people, are now my people. The unpitied now are pitied. They're loved. And so throughout this book, there's always this statement of hope, because we know Romans chapter 15 and verse 13 is that God is a God of hope. And therefore, I don't know what struggles you're facing in your marital relationship or other relationships right now, but I want you to think about this message from Hosea and Gomer. Don't give up hope. Keep looking to the Lord, and remember, if we return to Him, His blessings come, especially in the unions of our relationships that He loves and cares about so very, very much. So you have a whole bunch of other questions to dialogue and discuss about, but I certainly want you to talk about what's happening in your heart right now. If you're hopeful about your relationships, if there are issues that you need some help with, take some time in the transparency of your connection to ask for prayer and pray for those who have some significant needs. So may the Lord bless you. We'll look forward to being with you next week. Enjoy your study.